So, are there any questions? And I can't see all the faces, so if you have a question, just unmute and jump in.
I don't have a question, but
Who are you?
I don't know. I'm Marla. I'm an addict still. I'm still an addict. But when we started using consensus based in Chicago, I think that what it did for us on the regional level was it made it all inclusive because we used to have people, and I'm sure that every area probably has those who perfected the Robert's Rules of Order, uh, technical, you know, all the complications in order to feel better than or to lift themselves higher than someone else. And it just levels all playing fields because it's just conversation. And that's all that decisions in Narcotics Anonymous should be. It should be about us finding a place where everyone can speak, from the newcomer walking in off the street to the old timer, maybe who doesn't know how to read or whatever the case might be. It just leveled the playing field. And I think that I'm excited to see it be so broad. So thank you guys for all the work you're doing to bring it to every area, every region, and all of this. I mean, we're kind of late on it, maybe. I don't know. It's all on time though, so I'm happy to see it. That's all.
Thanks. And I should just point out, Marla was one of our first facilitators at the Chicagoland region, and she really helped set the tone as to how we do it. Another question or comment, just jump in.
I'm Jackie and I'm an addict. And this is fun. I really love doing this and it's instructive. I've been participating with the region for many years now using CBDM, and it really does work really well. My question though is, because it appears that the facilitator is so key to making this process work effectively. And so it really is like coming from Earth to Mars when I talk to people who are just stuck on Robert's Rules of Order, even if they don't understand it. But it's like, we've always done it this way. So, a lot of people are just, I don't want to say they're afraid, but they are resistant to changing over. And I'm thinking that a part of that could be and the leadership training of the leadership. And so I'm wondering how facilitators get trained on this, or is it more about the selection process? So like Lewis would have been, he would have been my first thought. He's always my first thought when it comes to CBDM because he's such a great facilitator using this method. But nobody else is Lewis. So how do we train our existing leaders to facilitate the CBDM process?
Well, that's an excellent question. And Marla did do a workshop on leadership and facilitation in Detroit a few weeks ago. And Dennis and I are getting ready to do one as well, probably using that as the start. And so, yeah, facilitator training is very important in learning how to do it. And it does take practice. Dennis, Doug, you want to comment on that?
I do actually. The one slide that you had brought up was it stressed the importance of not just to listen, but to hear. Those are the difference. I can listen to what you're saying, but if I don't hear it, it really doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And I have to, God, the amount of patience that goes along with it and understanding and realizing that it's not my opinion that we're getting, it's your opinion that we're trying to get. That is key.
Dennis, you want to say something?
Yeah, facilitation is key in CBDM more so than even in Robert's Rules, because Robert's Rules does have that book that is step by step, do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. CBDM being principle based is more open to and flexible by nature to how effective a facilitator is. But Lewis already spoke on it too, as far as the workshops. Like, we have more ability to do workshops now than ever, more ability to show up and help train areas, regions. We can show up to hybrid areas and hybrid regions, or show up to virtual areas, virtual regions. You can have members go attend other service bodies, like the NEZF is open participation, MZF open participation. So you can send people to learn that way. Like, there's all manner of ways of learning this stuff now, more so than there ever was before.
So I figuratively got a PhD in Robert's Rules as I came up in the service system in the 80s. And but what I've observed is, as I've traveled and as I've moved to different regions and different areas, and like all the way out here in Alabama, Robert's Rules really isn't even Robert's Rules. And I lose my effing mind when close nominations second, right? Well, I sit there and I just like, so even at that, a lot of area service committees have a very, and somebody got really offended when I used this word, surprise, right? Of maturity level. A lot of areas have, and some regions even, have a very low maturity level with understanding how to navigate decisions and reports in that medium, and defer to the experience of people with 20, 30 years clean that apparently know how all this works. And it just becomes, it's sort of like it mutates until it becomes its own thing that I don't even recognize or understand anymore. So it's really, hopefully, this as CDBM is an adaptive model, and it releases the rigidity of process and allows people to learn to agree on how to agree. And I'll finish with this. There's an interesting project going on in the area where I live, where we broke away from North Alabama area, which is still using Robert's Rules. And we started an area called Madison County area, which is a virtual area. And it uses consensus, and we have 2 co-facilitators. We don't have a chair and a vice chair. We've got 2 co-facs. And our area has no policy. We have no policy. And we have, in the last 11 months, we have completed so many projects, reinvigorating hospitals, institutions panels in Bradford Treatment Center, Flyer Day for Decatur, Alabama, Flyer Day for Huntsville, Alabama, doing workshops to get into prisons. So, like, we're doing things because, as a small group of people online, we pretty much know how to agree on how to agree. And so far, it's just working. Eventually, and I'll end with this, sorry. Eventually, because it came up at this area meeting, some people were losing their effing mind that there's no policy. And what I tried to communicate is, policy will be created when there's a need for the policy, because we can no longer agree on it. We can't agree on how to make a decision on what something means. And so when we can no longer come to consensus on what something means, we create a document that we all agree that that's what that means, and we move forward. So I just wanted to throw that out, that it is working somewhere. Thanks. And I had a lot of fun here, and yes, absolutely. Being that type of person is a cathartic healing process for me.
Okay, before I call on Kyle and Kimmy, I just want to point out that I moved to Chicagoland in 2003, and Region had already decided to go to CBD before it even put together a policy, and I was part of the people who helped design that policy. And so, you don't need a policy to start it, and as process starts, then you can write your policy if you need to. Okay, Kyle, what do you got?
Hi, I'm Kyle. I'm an addict. I have a question about because I brought this up at my area just before the meeting, because I had attended this workshop at the learning days, and was just kind of expecting a discussion about it and a read from people, and it turned into a big debate, which we're really good at doing at our area. But I guess a couple things. How do you determine when this is something that is needed to change? And like at our area, our Robert's Rules of Orders are what we fall back on if we don't have something already in our guidelines. And so we're going to be looking at our guidelines to make sure that things are clear and things that our process is smooth and clear, so that we only have to go to Robert's Rules of Orders if we have to, but it's not, I wouldn't say consensus based decision making. And so there's that. And then if you have a squeaky wheel, I don't understand, the squeaky wheel is going to be an issue, however you are making your decisions, whether it's Robert's Rules of Orders, consensus-based decision-making, or whatever process you have. Like and we've got a nice, really squeaky wheel in our group. So I'm not understanding how that solves anything with that.
Let me address that, and then let me turn it over to Dennis and Doug to your other part of your question. I have found in a lifetime of facilitation that a lot of times the people who are what we think of as squeaky wheels, they have great ideas, but no one ever really listens to them. And that, part of their squeakiness is a frustration at not feeling that they're being heard. It's personalities or something like that. And what CBDM does is it extracts those good ideas and makes sure that they have a place where they can say them and be listened. Oftentimes when I've been in a service body, the squeaky wheel talks, people roll their eyes and just ignore that person. And this actually gets away from that, and it gets to the point that everyone has a good idea, and it's very important for the facilitator to pull that out. And that's how and that's how you bring those people into the process and make them feel a part of it. And I've seen it happen to a lot of people, and it's really marvelous when I see. So Dennis, Doug, you want to answer the other part of the question?
Sure. So on the necessity of switching, there's no absolute necessity to switch from Robert's Rules to CBDM. If I eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day and that gets the job done, then it'll get the job done. Doesn't mean that there's not other sandwiches that might not do a more effective job in feeding me and putting a smile on my face and a gut on me. I seem to do well enough with that already. But the point to that is that if it works fine. But the idea that just because that's the way things have been done as a reason for moving forward has never sat well with me, because there's always better. We can always be more effective. And it's something to explore, to try out. And the thing that I love about CBDM, Lewis just exemplified, in that it allows members to feel heard. And even the squeaky wheels, they are more a part of the decision, because the focus of CBDM isn't the decision itself. The focus of CBDM is building the decision. The focus of CBDM isn't yes or no. The focus is we are building something together. So I've heard multiple times at area, at zone, where someone who was the squeaky wheel spoke, and they felt better about the end result decision that they opposed because they felt heard. And feeling heard is a very, very powerful tool in building decisions and building conscience together and coming to a truer conscience. Feeling heard is really, it's at the core of just about everything we are as a fellowship. And I found CBDM really, really is effective at helping members feel heard, even if you don't exactly agree with the direction we're going. And like Lewis said too, that there's good ideas in everybody, and there's often one of our friends in the Northeast here that we both love, is often seen in venues as a squeaky wheel, but brings wonderful ideas to the table when given an opportunity to be heard. So CBDM gives a better venue for those ideas to be focused on rather than the policy that you're enacting one way or the other. Which part of Robert's rules? Are you doing a motion the right way? Are you framing this the right way? Are you doing this the right way? It's, what's the idea? What are we really focusing on? Where is this going to take us? Why would we want to do this thing? How is this going to help better carry our message? So it's a different focus entirely with CBDM. And that's one of the things I love about it. Doug?
Yeah, I agree with both of these guys. And I'm going to tell you something that you probably heard 1,000 times. When the pain gets great enough, that's when you change. So having said that, like the example that I showed, if we're in the middle of a discussion regarding a motion that came up and you're just getting ready to explain why you like or don't like that motion, and somebody else jumps in and says, motion to table, you're done. You're done. We don't want to hear what you have to say at this point. Now it becomes a motion to table, and that takes precedence. And that's why it was formed. That's why it was put in there the way it was, because it shows you that you can be stopped cold in the middle of a conversation, and we don't want to hear what you got to say anymore. Now that's what I'm saying when the pain gets great enough. Again, listen, hear. You have to hear what everybody wants, not what the rules say. That's the difference, I think.
Okay.
And I can, real quick, while I'm thinking of it, an example when you're going back to the squeaky wheel part, is this is part of where you come to a balance in the buffet of options you put together for CBDM. So as one of the facilitators for the Northeast Zonal Forum, one of the common things I do as we're going through business is when someone that's in the minority viewpoint speaks, I'm like, do you feel that you've been heard in this topic? Do you feel that you've been heard in this matter? Okay. And then move towards a decision, whether it's pass, fail, wherever it is. Then move towards a decision, first ensuring that, do you feel like you've been heard? All right. And quite often when I'm saying that, the person I'm speaking to is not going to get their way. But we're making sure you've got a chance to be heard and be a part of this thing. And then make sure that when everyone else heard what they had to say, does that impact what we're doing? Does that make anyone stop and consider? So it's like truly being heard.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Kimmy, you had a question?
I do. Hey, all. I'm Kimmy. I'm an addict. I just want to say thank you all so very much for this workshop and your presentation. It's like I'm taking notes. I'm learning a lot, and I'm really, really glad to be here. So thank you all, truly. I currently, my pain is enough. I currently serve as vice chair and chair for our policy and administration subcommittee for North City area Chicago. And my pain is enough. I feel like our area, I've been there a little over a year now, and I just feel like, you know, the way using Robert's rules and having a policy, we spend more time arguing over what the rules are. Is this in policy? Policy is not clear. What are do we have consensus? I love this idea of, you know, getting things done and going from a totem pole, like a totem pole ruling rather than let everybody be people. Let us all be humans and let us all be heard. So I love it. I guess my concerns are, and I've brought this to area as, a potential change. And that's why I'm here today, because I would be coming up as the next facilitator, move to facilitators and not chair people and rulers of sorts. So I guess my question is if I can have any words of advice or experience from people that, you know, have gone from this Robert's Rules of Order and policy to enacting and bringing forth CBDM to an area or region. Any experience, like I really would appreciate. And Lewis has been fabulous. Like I've had a lot of conversations with him. So, yeah.
And just as a footnote, I was at the area last week, it was, and they spent 20 minutes arguing about some, trivial thing that could have been decided in a minute on consensus-based decision.
Very true.
Well, I'll tell you what, you saw the implementation slides. Get them to try it for a month.
Mhm.
Just say, look, we're going to give this a shot. This is how we do it. And you can go to NAS and download the CBDM processes and hand them out a month before. That way they have a chance to look them over. And when it comes time, they're all well informed of the process. And if things crash and burn, don't worry about it. It very well may, but the fact that they will have a chance to be heard might outweigh anything.
And yeah, on my home area, I was actually the chairperson at the time when we first switched to consensus based. And one of the things that happened, we weren't looking to switch to consensus based. I was handed a motion, and as we all know, motions have to be very specific, like a computer program, essentially. That it's instructions that will be followed in the motion. The intent doesn't really matter. We have to have an intent on there, but the motion could say buy pizza, and the intent is to eat Chinese, and it's going to be buy pizza. We go by the motion. It's a program. And someone gave me a motion that was an idea that didn't have the specifics of how to accomplish it. It was something to do with our how our activities committee would be fundraising and how they'd handle their finances and for what reason and all that. And I'm like, well, if this is Robert's rules as we're supposed to be, I have to rule this out of order right now. But there's this thing called consensus-based decision making, and we take and bounce this idea around and build this together. And we tried it out, and I'm like, did you guys like this? When we got done with it, I'm like, all right, so here's what I'm hearing. And as a facilitator, it's very important you reflect back to the body regularly what you're hearing. Because if anyone gets off page, and you have like this person thinks you're over here and this person thinks that we're talking about this, you're not really together. You're going to have a very difficult time building that decision together. So reflecting back to the body what you're hearing regularly is very important. And when we got done, I'm like, so what I'm hearing is we want this, 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 and this. Is everyone okay with me handing these off to our policy committee to make a motion that does this in our guidelines? Because we are still fully Robert's rules. And people are like, yeah, let's do that. And I'm like, all right. Also, at the same time, would you guys be okay with, on a trial basis, I forget what it was, 3, 4, or 5 months, you want to try out what we just did for a few months, get a feel for it? All right, yeah. And then at the end of that time, we'll decide whether we want to actually do something in our guidelines to switch us over. All right, cool. And it let them try it out. And it worked. It really worked really well. The thing that threw us off rails was we had someone that knew everything, and he came in with the right way of doing CBDM, and it was a mess. So we ended up in already being CBDM, we had a bottom in that through the type of policy we were operating in CBDM that was really not. Our area became very toxic very fast. A lot of our GSRs left. We actually, part of our area split off and formed another area because it became so toxic. We have members that left and say they will never come to NA again because of some of their experiences at our area meeting. Because it got so toxic because someone had the one right way of doing CBDM. And then we hit a bottom, and then a couple of us came back and said, hey guys, you want to try something out? You went this way, you want to try this out? And then now we're using the WSC 2018 process from Guide to World Services. It's a very laid out process that can be adapted however you want. And we've had more members coming back. It's served us through the pandemic. The atmosphere is great. People enjoy coming to area. We actually it was music to my ears at our last area, because we have a hybrid area, where a brand new GSR showed up, had a couple months clean, and said, looking forward to coming to the next area. Really enjoyed it. I'm like, oh, hell yes. That is awesome. That was music to my ears. Someone new enjoyed area. So that was great to me. So it can very quickly go off the rails if you forget the principles it's built on. Just remain open, flexible, and then the other thing that you'll run into, that we ran into more than once, and I run into in different parts, even in the region, because region is still technically Robert's rules, but is we get very caught up in our identity being attached to specific things. Like in my area, most of our meetings years ago were 90 minutes. Now we're kind of split 90 minutes, 60 minutes. But I had a member come up to me at area saying, you need to call out this group for breaking traditions and not doing things the NA way because they're meeting for 60 minutes. I'm like, okay. There are areas, regions, there's members that attach Robert's rules as part of our identity as how NA comes to decisions. It's how some areas and regions within Narcotics Anonymous have elected to come to decisions in the US and the UK. Elsewhere in the world, you don't really find it so much. US and UK, some of us chose to go this with Robert's rules, and that's how we started. As CBDM has gotten more prevalent and we've heard about it and practiced it more, it's spread more not because anyone's forcing it on anyone else, but because it's very attractive. And when it works, it works. When it really does work, it is really attractive, and it's a whole different atmosphere.